you miss us?
Of course.
That's a loaded question.
That's so. Just miss seeing people during session.
What's, just to start off with what happened today with the rules, you elaborate on why you disagreed with the League of Women Voters report, and maybe also why you disagree with, apparently there are some members of your own caucus who want to change some of those rules. So your reaction to that?
Well, the disagreement with the League of Women Voters report is that it was reported inaccurately, because they claim that transparency has decreased when in actuality transparency has increased dramatically. So it is just an incorrect conclusion.
What about the debate within your caucus on that? 8 members sent you a letter in December.
Yeah, we're always talking about possibilities of rule changes. We decided not to make those today. We'll continue to have conversation about rules as we go through the session and as we do every year.
Mr. Speaker, why don't we see bill requests and pre-filed bills anymore?
Because House Bill 10 of 2021 eliminated them.
Why?
It seemed to me at that, said it multiple times, that it distracted from the work at hand, that it actually torpedoed a lot of really good legislation. And we had several members that actually requested it be done away with. Everything is still still available on meeting notes. Any member has the ability to release their bill drafts to anybody that they choose to.
How about for the public though in general?
Again, any member has the ability, if they want their bill to be seen, they have the ability to reveal it.
Mr. Speaker, how soon may we see the House's copy of the budget bill?
As soon as it's ready, just as we have done previously. We use the interim as productively as we possibly can, and so we're able to build the budget much more quickly than usual. There were some last minute changes at personnel that we weren't made aware of until a couple days ago that have caused us to have to change some numbers, which it has a domino effect whenever you change personnel numbers, because it affects pension contributions. It's a domino effect, so it takes a while to clean all that up. But I would think within the next week.
Do you think it will be before the end of this week that we see it, or could it run into next week?
My guess is it'll be next week. It's possible. I haven't talked to Chairman Petrie today, but it'll be filed as soon as it's ready.
Have you gotten any idea when the governor will be presenting his budget bill to you? Other than, his remarks.
I have no idea.
Will there be a bill you think that'll be in bill form so that you guys can compare and contrast?
I would assume that, but again, I'm not aware. I told him I would file it in my name as I have in the past, but I haven't seen it.
Are there any aspects of the governor's budget proposal that you could see incorporating into the GOP House's proposal?
Well, again, we haven't seen the details in an actual budget document yet, but certainly there are many shared goals that are good for the Commonwealth.
Anything specifically?
Not until we see the details of how he's proposed doing things.
This is a really broad question, but what do you view as the main priorities of Republicans this session in terms of passing legislation?
It's got to be budget. I mean, it's the one thing that we are constitutionally obligated to do, and as President Stivers always says, it is kind of the ultimate policy document. So that will take precedent. I'm proud of the budgets that we've constructed over the last, I guess, the last 4 budgets. Considering we did 2 annual budgets. They were very fiscally sound. We've changed a lot of not productive and not good policy parts of the budget, like sweeping agency accounts, like pushing the final pay period of the year to the next fiscal year just so we didn't have to account for it. We've undone a lot of those practices. We will continue to be very pragmatic and very fiscally conservative in our budgeting, but also understand that there are places that we can and should invest.
There was advocates this morning calling for the use of tapping into the rainy day fund to reinvest in various needs in the state. Do you imagine the House GOP proposal will include any rainy day funds use?
I think that you will see some expenditures from the rainy day fund.
Do you have any ballpark measure of how significant they could be?
I don't.
Okay.
I do, but I'm not probably not going to tell you yet. So it is. It's significant though. We will end this fiscal year with $4.5+ billion in the budget reserve, and that's more than we need. And so it is practical that we get rid of some of that money.
Do you expect the House is going to pass a constitutional amendment this session or pass the bill to start that process on school choice and the common schools and changing that language up?
I do. I think that there is considerable interest in our caucus to do that.
Can you tell us what House Bill 1 or House Bill 2 or 3 or 4 will be?
I wouldn't want to kill the suspense. We have never been huge proponents of the priority bill list. My suspicion is that you will see House Bill 1 be a budget or infrastructure bill, something like that. Some of the other priorities that we've been contemplating would be the Kentucky SAFE Act, the crime bill that Jared Bauman has worked on. I think that will probably get one of those ceremonial numbers.
Going back to the rainy day fund, you were talking about how you do want to see some of that spending. What are some priority areas that you'd like to tackle with that excess of funds?
Again, I think you'll see that when we actually file the budget. I will tell you that the one thing that we can spend that money on that does not count as an appropriation under our tax reform bill is to pay down pension liability. I think that it would be appropriate to assume that there will be significant additional contributions into the pension system, which is certainly not a real sexy thing. I often liken that to pumping out a septic tank. It's something that has to be done, but it's hard to derive any great pleasure from it because people can't feel it, touch it. But it does impact our fiscal stability, our long-term abilities to have a sound budget.
Go ahead.
I know not everybody here's in Louisville, but JCPS obviously has gotten a lot of attention, especially at the beginning of the year with transportation. Do you want to see transportation fully funded? That's something that the district has pushed. And in addition, what other priorities in terms of JCPS that your fellow Republicans have talked about would you like to see move forward?
We're still continuing that conversation. I believe that you will see a bill dealing with Jefferson County Public Schools. I don't believe that it will be action specific. I believe that there's lots of proposals. Everybody has a different idea about what should happen with JCPS. I'm not saying that any of those ideas are better than others, but the fact of the matter is that we need to make sure that we have incredibly skilled voices in the room when making those types of decisions. I don't necessarily favor one approach over the other, but I do feel very strongly that whatever we do everything possible to get it right.
Yeah, do you anticipate an effort to try to change the formula to trigger the tax cuts in the individual income taxes?
I don't believe that there will be any change to the formula.
And then how much of a factor will that be for you all in crafting the budget for the next 2 years to make sure that those triggers are met in future years?
I don't think that we can get into a place where we allow one specific policy to dictate sound budgeting. we budget based on our needs and not our wants, and I think that you will continue to see us do that. And if that means that we hit our triggers, then that's great, because it gets us one step closer to our ultimate goal. If it means we don't hit our triggers, then we better be darn certain that we've spent it in the right way.
Do you think there's any chance a bill will have a chance of passing in the House that splits up JCPS into different districts, or is that one?
I don't believe that there is a consensus on what needs to be done yet. I believe that you will see something done to address what may happen in the future.
Do you think an abortion bill will get to the House floor this session? And if so, what do you think that would entail?
Still lots of conversations going on about it, as you can imagine, just as with everybody. It's a very hotly debated issue. People with lots of strong opinions in our caucus continues to be discussed.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
Senate President Stivers in recent months has mentioned that he wants to revisit the issue of, making sure that coal plants remain on the power grid. Obviously, SB4 was a bill pertaining that was passed last year. Is there anything more that the legislature would be interested in doing on that front, do you imagine?
I'm not an energy expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe that reliability of the grid is paramount importance. And if there's something that we need to do to secure the reliability of the grid, then I think you'll see us take those measures.
Got it. And does that necessarily mean keeping coal on the grid, or is it?
I think it's just, it is a matter of making sure that our grid is reliable and sustainable.
Time for one more.
Anything going to be done with the legislature about crime in the Jefferson County area?
I believe, as I mentioned that in one of our probably priority bills, priority bill, that the Kentucky Safe Bill that Jared Bauman and the other Jefferson County legislators have been working on will likely get priority status. And certainly we continue to discuss the individual facets of that legislation, but I believe that you will see something passed on it.
Is it possible that a benefits cliff legislation is going to pass this session, or is that still an issue that's tricky to get around?
It's still a very, very difficult issue. Until we get some waivers from the federal government, we're working on some things, but until we get some waivers, it's very difficult to do. But we're trying to be as creative as we possibly can.
Okay, guys, thank you all.
Thank you.